So what you're asking me is how do I find the sine and cosine and eventually secant and tan and all that of when they tell me the when they tell me what the ratio is, but they don't tell me the angle. So you mentioned about splitting the unit circle up in 10 parts. So, well, I not that you couldn't do it that way, but that's not going to be the easiest. And here's some four exercises from page. Let's see, it's from page 373 in the textbook. So that's section 5.3. So I see. Let's see. What do I want to do? First off, let's do question 6 because that's in quadrant 1. So I've got here's my circle. Here's some angle. I know it's in quadrant 1. And then, let's see, how do I get a different color? Here's my reference angle. See, that's theta, right? And I don't know. I'm going to pretend this isn't on the unit circle. In fact, if I look at that, if I look at that, this says the cosine is 2 over 9. So I know cosine is the adjacent side over the hypotenuse, right? Or x over r, if you want to think about it that way. So this is going to be 2, and this is going to be 9. Now remember, not the whole thing. I'm just talking about that part of it is 2. And then I got to find the y value. And then since this is a right triangle, because that's why we did that, I'm going to say that 2 squared plus y squared, or the opposite side, equals 9 squared. So that's going to give me 4 plus y squared equals 81. I'll subtract 4. Y squared equals, so what is that, 77? And then I'll take the square root. And because we're in quadrant one, we don't have to worry about any negative square root. So we know that this side is square root of 77. So, well, what's the sine? So this question asks us to find the sine. Well, sine is going to be opposite over hypotenuse. So the answer to this is square root of 77 over 9. If they wanted the tangent, I mean, on the quiz, I'm not asking for about the tangent. That tangent would be root 77 over 2, right? If we're looking for the secant, that would be 9 over 2, but we're not doing that. So if you're drawing the triangle in the right quadrant, because that'll help you keep the signs right, okay? So here, let's go do number 5. So number 5 is cosine, and so since it's the cosine, I know this is the adjacent. Guess this is the same kind of setup. It's the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And we know it's in quadrant 4. So here's the angle. And quadrant 4 is here. I don't really care about that angle because I really want, I'll call this theta, though that's not the same theta as what we're dealing with. And over here in quadrant 4, we know that cosine is positive. Of course, they told us that. So the adjacent side is 1. The hypotenuse is 7. So then to find this side, it's going to be the square root of 49 minus 1, right? So the square root of 48, which is a perfectly good answer. And it's negative too, right? Because it's down here. Y's are negative down here. So a great answer to this would be, the sine of that angle is going to be negative square root of 48 over 7, and done. I'm going to go just a little bit further just in case I throw a multiple choice question at you and you won't see that answer. What you'll see is this. So you got to remember, let's see, square root of 48 is the same thing as 16 times 3. So the square root of 16 times the square root of 3. The square root of 16 is 4. So the simplified way to write that, I don't know if it looks more simplified, but that's in kind of like in lowest terms. That would be another, on a multiple choice test, that would be there, okay, rather than the negative 48 over 7, okay? If you want, try 7, try 8, and I'm going to go ahead and you can pause the video, and I'll go ahead and do those other two, and then you come back and check it out. So number 8 tells me, let's see, so the sine of the angle equals 3 over 8, and that it's in quadrant 2. Okay, so I know in quadrant 2 sine is positive. So there's my reference triangle. This is opposite over hypotenuse, so 3 over 8. So then we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem. So that's going to be what? 64 minus 9. Because it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and then you solve it, right? 64 minus 9 is what? 55? And 55, root 55 doesn't simplify. But we do know that over here in quadrant 2, cosine's negative, so that has to have a negative value. So what's the cosine of this angle? Of this angle here, which is the same as this? What's the negative of that, right? Or whatever. So I'm going to write I'm looking for cosine of the angle. So that's going to be the adjacent side, which is the x, over the hypotenuse. Done. Okay. What about the next one? So question number 8 says the sine of the angle equals negative 1/4, and it's in quad 3. So I'm going to draw my triangle. I'm over here in quad 3. Here's the reference angle. This is the opposite. This is the hypotenuse, and we know the hypotenuse is always positive, so that's 4, and y is negative 1, because that's y's are negative there. So then we'll apply the Pythagorean theorem, which I think is right. It's negative 1 squared plus x or y squared, x squared. I get that backwards. Equals 16. So it'll be 15, right? So this will be the square root of 15. And it's negative because it's over here in quadrant 3. And then what are they asking us for the cosine? Because this is section 3. So the cosine is going to be adjacent over the hypotenuse, and that's what the cosine of that angle is. Hope this helps you answer that quiz question. Let me know if you still want to meet.